Hey, welcome to Real Talk, episode 133. I'm Todd. This is AJ, and we're back.
That was terrible shots fired, but
Why was it terrible, man? I thought
my sound effects did not sound like a gun whatsoever.
It could have been a different kind. Anyway, hey, what's Real Talk? Real Talk's an opportunity to talk about life, God, the Bible, and everything in between. We hope to be a place where you can come, yes, you, whether you're a Christian, not a Christian, or trying to figure out life in general. What is there beyond what we see, the mysteries of life? That's a weird way to say it. Bottom line is, we want to be a place where you can ask those questions. So there's a link somewhere in the description of this video or podcast, www.theremnant, that's REMNANT.life/real-talk, that's REAL. So www.theremnant.life/real-talk.
Boom, there it is.
Click it, go down to submit a question, follow the prompts, tippity-tap it into the box provided, hit submit, goes into our database completely anonymously. Maybe you have a question about God that you've never had anyone you could ask. Maybe you've been embarrassed to ask because it involves kind of an awkward topic.
Sure.
This is the place for that. So that's the gist of it. We're just three guys really, when you count our crack fun turn Clint.
Fun turn over there.
He's rocking the Maverick shades today. I love it. So we, essentially we're just a bunch of guys that love Jesus, love life, and we're right there with you. We don't pretend to know everything, and we're not going to give you fluffy answers. We're going to give you what the truth is.
Nice. I like the idea of no fluff answers. Hashtag no fluff.
Nice. I've been doing good with the hashtags.
Let's go.
So, typically, we've been diving right in.
Yeah?
Which we can. Or we could at least catch up a little bit on life. If you watched last week, you know that I was terribly ill. If you're listening now, you can tell that I am still
recovering.
Still in a battle.
That's right.
I thought I had recovered Sunday, and I found out Monday that it wasn't over yet.
No, man. As a matter of fact, we looked into it, and it can last, I think I said up to 8 weeks.
If it's a sinus infection, yeah.
Jeez, man.
I'm sure everybody thinks it's the big C-vid. You know what that means. The reason we're not actually saying the word is it will affect us. Social media.
Nice.
Right, C-vid. You guys know what I mean, right? Wink, wink. Wink, wink, podcast people. C-vid. Anyway, cough. Id. Yeah. Anyway.
Gosh dang it.
They thought it was that. It's not that. I can smell and taste. However, I woke up yesterday. It was yesterday morning?
I think it was yesterday, yeah.
Couldn't smell or taste. This is a gross story. So I'm like, this cannot be. Because I had this back in, December?
Yes.
The C-vid. Turns out, I got angry later in the day. Blew my nose so hard. This is so gross what I'm about to tell you. This kind of green glue, little bit just shot out into it. And then I could smell again.
So crazy, man.
Just apparently congestion stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. One little just piece of mucus can just cause you to lose all that.
Yeah. I took a Sudafed right before this show, which could be why my voice is affected because it's actually coming out of my head now.
Oh, it's draining?
Yeah. Long time to talk about gross things, but sickness. But hey, I hope you guys are doing well. I know here in Indiana we're high into we're knee deep into allergy season.
Oh yeah.
So we've all been affected to a degree, even you.
Yeah, man. I have a feeling that I have chronic sinus.
Sinusitis.
Yeah, man. Because I'm constantly always just clogged to some extent. I can always feel mucus in my throat all the time. I've just grown used to it.
We've lost a lot of people. Mucus. But yeah. It's not good, man. It's not fun.
No.
Well, you're kind of like me. You didn't grow up taking allergy pills either.
No, nothing.
Me either.
Yeah,
I just thought I randomly got terribly sick twice a year.
Yep.
Spring and fall.
Even aside from that, I didn't really ever take ibuprofen or anything hardly ever either. So it's a weird world to live in. All natural recovery. Except for Slim Fast. I drank Slim Fast a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, just because it was just there, right? I mean, you were just taking it from your mom.
Yeah, man. My mom was like, "Hey, kid, have some Slim Fast." And I was like, "I love it."
He thought he was just taking it from his mom.
Just some tasty chocolate milk.
We sort of prompted the question, really. You think that was a plant that she wanted you drinking the Slim Fast?
Probably.
I'll be honest with you, it's not a terrible idea.
No, man, it was a good idea because she knew I wouldn't eat vegetables, man, nothing. So she had to do something
to get your vitamins.
They used to stick, what was it, green bean? No, it wasn't green beans. They used to stick corn in my mashed potatoes.
Did you eat it?
Yeah. I mean, I would feel like these weird little chunks every once in a while, but
those
never
are,
thought
those are
about
corn pieces.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never.
They're not weird little chunks. It's the corn that was in there.
Yeah.
I want you to understand. He said they used to put corn in potatoes because it was good. You were like, yeah, but it had these little chunks in it.
That's right. Yeah, the corn. Yep. So yeah,
So-
it wasn't the corn. You know.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. We got a couple articles, a couple of, questions. But yeah, man, anything going on? Anything you want to talk about? I guess included in this, in general, let's just back up here. Anything you want to talk about your life?
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, guys.
Guys, P.S. One other thing. I've got to address this because it was brought to my attention, and I watched the show and it was true.
Okay.
So last week, if you watched the show, I was terribly, terribly ill.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than I thought. I had not, and I was told that. Well, one, if you watch the entire show, I mentioned that I almost passed out, which you can see the panic in my eyes, like when it happens. If you go back and watch that section right before, I'm going. So that being said, it also was brought to my attention that I looked like I just did not care about anything you were saying. Oh. Well, I'm serious, and I looked, and it's kind of true because I was on my phone, and I did not remember doing that.
Trying to survive.
Yeah, actually, honestly, part of it was me trying to be focused on something else. That being said, guys, when I get on the phone, if you're watching from the video, most of the time I am just getting our questions or pulling up because we don't plan, we don't script the show, but we do have what we're gonna some of the articles. So I try to get stuff ready in time.
Yeah, we have like a general outline.
I just don't want you to think, or I think you know that, but the world to think I don't care about you.
Yeah, I definitely knew you were listening. So, anyways, yes. What do I want to talk about? So I'm definitely in the midst of a Kairos moment. I think I've mentioned that.
Can you describe what that is for people? The
Yes.
Kairos moment?
A Kairos moment, what we like to call that is it's like a moment in time where you feel like time stops and you know like something is happening right now. It's that, you either have a choice to process through that or move on. And it usually is like, it can feel like it's like God trying to tell you something, whether you can figure it out or not. It just feels like time stops and you just know, okay, this is something that is much bigger than your everyday life.
Yeah, those moments in our life when you can feel, sort of like heaven and earth meet, right? Those moments that hit your life I mean, everyone's had them where it's like, man, this is meaningful. Right?
Yes.
It could be your wedding day sometimes when you see that. It could be the birth of your child. It could be, sometimes it's a tragic thing and it's hard moments. And sometimes it's moments like this where just we learn something in a way that like hits us. So, yeah, Kairos, it comes from a Greek word. The Greeks had more than one word, really, for time. Kind of two. There may have been more, but I know chronos, which is like the time the way that we are used to viewing it, and Kairos, which is those kind of moments.
Interesting.
Anyway, this is for people to understand our lingo. And that's not in the Bible, but those moments are kind of described in the Bible. It's just that way we have a way to speak to each other and understand what we're talking about.
Awesome. Also, I always loved the little chart you guys used to draw.
Yeah.
We used to have a life group.
You could throw it on there.
A life group code.
On this video?
I probably could.
I'll send it to you. It's on the phone.
Sweet, I'll do that. So you guys will
you'll
see it
see
on the
it,
screen. I'll try to pop it up in the corner or something.
Yeah.
We used to do this little chart to explain how it works, and essentially it's like that moment that he was talking about, and you have a couple choices. It's kind of like a loop. You can either see that moment and you can kind of start to think about it and acknowledge it happened, and then you can kind of just loop around to where it just keeps happening. Or you can take that loop and as you're going around, realize, okay, I can do something different and I can walk that out with my brothers and sisters, and then you can keep going and move past it and learn from it and grow. So,
so I'll just let you know they'll see it. So you'll see a line on here,
Yeah.
this Kairos moment. The X or the moment's going to show up, whatever the event is. And then it's our life, right?
Yep.
And these moments happen, and what God's trying to do is get our attention and show us in a way, right, that typically is trying to show us something. So it's kind of that idea of like, why does this same thing keep happening to me?
Yes.
That's typically a good sign.
Yes.
Or if some moment. And then you have, really it's split in between, your two ways to deal with it are to ignore it, hop it, and keep moving on, which isn't good, right, typically?
No.
Because God's not going to give up on you. Or the other thing you do is sort of repent and believe, which is the sense of, hey, I'm going to turn away, I'm going to change something, and then I'm going to recognize I need to change something, and then the belief part is I'm going to change something. And within that, it's kind of broken up to help us process, observing, reflect, discuss, plan, account, and then act. So just people will see it in the screen. That's what
I
I'm
love
sharing.
it. And I like the way you put it. How it's like this, the same thing keeps happening, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was going to go into, because that's part of this. So for me, I'm definitely in a Kairos moment because I've just had the same thing keep popping up. So like it almost seems like it's every day. It's insane, honestly. Like, and I just know God's trying to tell me something. And so, I've what I've been going through lately, and the reason why I believe it's a Kairos moment is I've had to try to. People have been really peeling back the layers of my faith by having conversations with me where they've pointed out, like, hey, man, like, you are not you haven't been acting like who you really are in like a month or probably even longer. Um, and I've had to really, a lot of the time, you have two choices in that moment. You can either try to deal with that and figure out what's going on, or you could, like he said, you can either just kind of keep going. And I think my tendency a lot of the time in life is to just kind of keep going, but God's not allowing me to, because it just keeps popping up so much, so often. It's just not possible. I can't, I can't ignore it. So, I haven't been the AJ that came to know Christ for at least a month. I think it's probably longer than that. But everyone around me, the guys close to me, they've really noticed it for at least the past month, that I haven't really been who I really am. And I've shown a lot of older tendencies in who I used to be before I was saved. And looking back, I did a lot of, funny enough, I did a lot of thinking even just last night. And I wrote down this giant list, that I want to show people and like talk to people, because I think it's so important to, of things that either I hadn't noticed, or they were things that I had noticed but I didn't want to deal with them, because I don't like looking at the ugly side of myself. So one thing I noticed is that, and it's funny because for anybody that knows me, this will come as a shock, maybe it won't, and I mean that. I don't know, but I've realized that, like, I am an angry person. Like, I have anger in me, and I don't deal with it. Because I can look back on specific moments in different situations where I remember being angry, and I either did one of two things. I either talked myself out of thinking I was angry in my head during that moment, or I just instantly shut it down. But the funny thing is a lot of the time, depending on the situation I was in, I would still act out of that outwardly somehow, whether it was like subtle, or whether it was, there was an opportunity to kind of let it out, but it seemed like it was still normal just because of like the situation. So for example, like sports, you can let out anger in sports a lot easier than you could in like a regular social situation, because there's, with sports comes intensity and competition, so you can let that out. And so, and it can come off as more normal, as like, oh, he's just being competitive, he's not angry, so that was like, that's one. But I've realized that, like, I have anger in me, man, and like I have, and from that anger, since I've never really talked about it, I definitely feel like I have some roots of bitterness in me, and that's hard for me to accept, but like I accept it, because look what it's done to me. Like, I can't deny that I haven't been different. Like, I can't. I can sit here and try to, like, I can try to trick myself all I want, man, but I haven't been who I really am. And I know one of the things that first intrigued me about Christianity, when I was first learning about it, was the idea, because I know you brought this up years ago in a sermon, was the idea of like a slow fade. And I feel like the slow fade, it's funny, man. The slow fade is it seems inevitable. It happens to everybody to some extent in some area. People have this slow fade, and I think that's just because of who we are, or that sin in us. That's bound to happen. But it's always about, what do we do with it when you realize you're slowly fading? Do you let it keep happening, or do you take a stand? And for me, man, I haven't been taking a stand, and I haven't been honest, and it's really, even just from last night, I can already, coming into today, I know today I felt, I'm going too fast. So last night I felt some weight come off, because I was just kind of typing this stuff out, and I was like, okay, I'm actually being honest with myself. This is good. Now I just got to transfer that to being honest with others, which, that's going to be in the process. This is going to be something I talk to people about. But I felt that weight come off, and then even coming into today, I kind of felt like I felt anxious, And, it was cool because you told me, like, hey, man, like, go read and pray, even if it's just, like, 5 minutes. And I went in there, and I prayed, and it was funny, man, because, like, I didn't even, it was, like, 5 seconds in, and I could already feel, like, myself, like, I could feel that weight coming off just because I was just being honest, even with God, right? Like, I wasn't, I didn't have to be honest in that moment. I was in there by myself, but I did because I believe in this, and I wanted to, like, this is real, and I wasn't treating it like it was real for the longest time, and that's why it all felt so dry. And it wasn't real. It didn't feel real to me anymore. And it's because I wasn't treating it like it was. And so I remember, like, like literally like 5 seconds into it, as I was praying, like, I could feel that weight come off because I was just being genuine and just having a conversation with God. And I even, a couple of tears came down my face just because of that anxiety, man. Like, it can be heavy. And, I did that, and I read, and I asked God, like, hey, please show me something that I can apply. And he showed me something, and it was just cool. Like, and then coming into this, like, man, even just within a day of going, okay, I'm going to just lay it out there. It's crazy how much better you can feel spiritually compared to like an entire month or even longer of just kind of playing the game. Like, it's insane, man. And so, I don't know. I'm definitely on a journey of realizing, like, yeah, man, like, I was definitely on a slow fade, and I don't want to go back to it. And inevitably, when something feels like it is slipping, like, I have to come to a place of making the choice of, do I believe in this or do I not? And if I do, what am I going to do about it? And for me, that's being honest and letting people know, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling. Like, and that's just something that I wasn't doing for the longest time. And, it's created a lot of issues for me personally, but, it also hurts people. It hurts everyone around you. And, like, that's not, like, you don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, and make people feel like I don't care and all this stuff. And, like, so anyways, long story short, I'm in the middle of a Kairos moment of, like, honesty and, like, do I actually believe what the Bible says about, like, letting people carry each other's burdens? And, do I choke out my own faith by letting my own feelings get in the way? Do I let that overtake everything else that I've claimed that to believe? And
well,
I'm working
I don't
through
understand that last part. Can you, like, make that clear for people? So, you don't want to let your feelings. What do you mean? Like, I think people are going to get lost if you're not if you don't start being specific. Kind of meaning, like, that sentence. What does that mean? What I guess if you were to put it in one sentence, what is the Kairos moment?
So for me, the Kairos moment is,
or what are you realizing about yourself, kind of?
that I am not honest with myself and others. Like, I'm not honest
About
with my
what?
feelings.
Okay, there you go.
I'm not honest with where
Like,
I'm
if
at.
you have a negative feeling, like you're angry or
Yes,
sad.
exactly. Like, I'm not
Why
honest.
are you not?
I am not, because I don't want to deal with it.
Gotcha. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to make, because I think all that was good stuff. The last part, I was like, okay. I just want to make sure that that people understood where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because you're being pretty honest.
Thank you. So yeah, man, that's just kind of where I'm at. And again, like, I think right now, in this moment, I can see that the only way up right now, the only way to go is up right now. And I hope I can keep that.
What does that mean?
That
Like, what's up?
Up is just being honest. Like, you can't, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, there's no going down.
Gotcha.
If I'm following Christ, there's no going down. It doesn't matter what the situation looks like or how it turns out. It's only going up from there. So I'm hoping to keep that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. That's kind of what, my life is.
Excuse me. Yeah, that makes sense, man. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you being that transparent.
Yeah, I think, real talk. So, anyways, what about you, man? How are you?
Well, I want to, Clint, did you have anything to add or ask him or anything about what he said? He says no. I don't really have anything, I guess. I haven't felt good. That stinks.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been sick.
Yeah, that's really it, man. I don't have anything that would be any different than things I've shared in the past. Still just trying to figure this out and learn what it means to live out of this stuff being real. So, that being said, I guess Fun Turn, you have anything going on you need to share? You got to do more than just silence, buddy. You got to give me something. Because remember, they can't see you.
I don't know. I think I'm on this weird journey with my medication and then realizing that got to deal with that and dealing with my own emotional health and emotional everything that I don't like to deal with at all. So that's pretty much what's been going on with me. Otherwise, pretty much the usual. Just going around wearing Maverick glasses, having a good time.
Just going around wearing
driving
Maverick
in my
glasses.
silver bullet of a car.
It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
It's so ridiculous. That is Fun Turn's life update. Maverick glasses and silver bullet.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. I guess one thing I think sometimes is I watched a couple of old episodes. This just happened, like in this show. This has nothing to do with anyone else. It's just us. Things just everyone's so weird lately. Like, I think you're saying, yeah. What does that mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, you feel like they're weird too, or you're just acknowledging me?
For myself, I've been weird, definitely.
I said everyone. I think that the meaning. Sorry, I should clarify. Everyone is like us. So this show, I went back and watched an earlier episode, and this is what makes this probably too real. I probably shouldn't do this, but it's tough, man, because it does seem like sometimes I feel like we come in here and we like dump our stuff, but we don't really help people process through it, which is really the point of the show. Otherwise, it just becomes us being people who sit on the couch and then use you guys that are watching and listening as our counselors or psychiatrists. Versus when we used to, when I look back at it, and I'm including me, there isn't ever an interaction anymore. There's not a conversation. We just kind of make statements and move on. And I'm not trying to be critical. And then randomly, which isn't, I guess that could lead to a lot of things. People, it's just funny sometimes how, like what the show has become. Not in a bad way necessarily, but I don't know. Like I said the other day, just taking us. I don't know if you guys out there listening ever do this. You hang out with people. Are you just around people too much? Sometimes I've wondered that. So you start taking things for granted, and then you just start making stuff like a checklist in life. So especially even friendships, relationships, stuff like that. And then what do you do about that? I don't know. So I could go into it, but typically some random guy is going to get on here, ignore everything I say, compliment what you said, AJ, because he's sucking up to you. And then nothing, he's not going to listen to anything I say. So sometimes then even I'm like, okay, because what I would say typically, like real talk is even that. So we had this interaction. What was the point? Like he shared something. We just kind of joked about it and moved on. But you also kind of made it a joke when you put the part at the end, which is fine, but we don't get anywhere. And then your stuff, like, that's kind of why I asked, like, where does that leave you? Like, what do you do? I think if we're going to do this show for you guys that are listening, which is part of it too, is I don't know. Is there an answer? Or are we just saying that life is just having these issues with no direction after it?
That's good, man, because I think...
And I'm not criticizing you guys. I'm talking about myself, too.
Yeah.
And then I think there's validity, by the way, and I think there's usefulness to processing things out loud for people to, like, share. Because I think, listen, guys, some of you out there listening and watching, you don't process. And we live in a world that doesn't really care about whether you process or not, doesn't want you to. Or they'll use the word process as an example, as, like, a code word for I don't want to talk about this ever.
Yes.
So...
That was my excuse. A lot of the time I use that. That was me.
I don't know. So all of that sounds negative, but then I guess if I'm being real, sometimes when you think about this show, it's like, what are we doing for you guys? What, maybe Because we're not really like Logan Paul. We're not here to entertain you. We're not entertaining you.
Right.
But we try, well, you say right, but then we kind of try to do that. But we're also, then you've got the cool, there's podcasts out there and videos doing what we're doing now, even though I do think we're one of the early ones, I really do, who are answering questions. And they're very serious, right? And those have a place too, and people really respond to those.
Right.
And I've wondered for us, and this is real talk, processing even, and we've talked about this, man, for really the last year since COVID, trying to figure all this stuff. Dang it. CVID, excuse me. You don't need to put the box on here. We understand Facebook. I wasn't making a statement about it. Yeah. We could bleep it. What's our niche? What are we trying to do here? And then what do you guys want? We ended Real Talk Live, which at one point, a lot of people that listen to this podcast may not even know what that is. We used to do a live version of the show where we answer questions, and then we kind of were like, man, the amount of time we put into this versus the fruit that it seems to be giving is not good anymore. And someone yesterday, weird timing, was like, hey, you guys should do Real Talk Live during the winter again when people are like inside. I was like, that's valid. Maybe we could. But I was like, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, what are we, what are we doing here? And does it benefit anyone listening anymore? And should we be, I know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like.
Yeah, kind of. It sounds like.
So why am I processing that with you guys? I just always try to think of the benefit of things.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, I like it. I like because it's honest. Like you said, like, hey, it's real talk. So, like, I think it sounds like it's almost like you're trying to ask the question of, like, as far as, like, the show, like, who are we?
That's part of it. I think early on we naturally had something, and then maybe it's because we're jaded and it's everything we're discussing now. And we're just like sad, mopey men who just kind of wake up and do what they're supposed to do. I don't know.
I think it kind of goes into the idea of, like, what I said earlier about the slow fade, like, in, like, different areas of life, like, taking things for granted, like you said. I think if we're not intentional, and I know that's kind of a cliche word, but, like, it's true. It's truth. Like, if you're not intentional about the things that you love or the things that you're doing in life, you can tend to just forget the impact it has, or even with God, like, you forget how important it is, what you're doing, the people you're reaching, the lives that can be changed.
Maybe people are doing us a favor, and we've stopped actually doing stuff for them.
Like, it's almost like out of, like, pity.
Mm-hmm.
That's a possibility.
I mean, I'm talking about people in the church. Some random guy in Texas right now. You're not watching this because you have pity, right? Like,
right.
But So I don't know how this necessarily applies to your guys' life, people out there, other than, I think you guys are right. I think, and I mentioned it too, sometimes it's taking things for granted, and we have to change and kind of wake up again. And sometimes, it's looking at your life and seeing, what am I spending my time in versus the cost that it is. And if it's not fruitful, why do we do it? And I'm talking about fruitful either for people in the kingdom, and if you're a non-Christian, it's going to sound crazy. It means the kingdom of God, God's plan and God's purpose. If it's not for that, okay, well, if it's not for you, what is it for? That's just something I've been pondering. And I didn't think of it at all. I wasn't lying to you guys. You said something, and I remember last night watching an earlier one, and I was like, man, those guys at least were having fun.
That's very true.
It's funny, man. I think, who was I talking to?
I'm going to blow my nose here because at this point, this show's a train wreck, so it doesn't really matter. Hold on.
Now, I was thinking,
that's so gross.
because I can't remember if it was you or if it was somebody else.
What?
I can't remember if it was you or somebody else, but somebody had, because they were bringing up, like, older episodes, and they said, like, AJ, you look so nervous. And I was like, oh, dude, I was definitely nervous. But it's funny because, like, it
wasn't me.
I almost feel like I would rather be, like, that nervous person who is just like, oh, man, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, compared to, like, someone who's just gotten used to it. Because once you get used to it, like, there's always going to be, like, pros and cons to, like, getting used to stuff. But I think one of the cons of getting used to, like, a podcast like this is you just, like you said, it's just like you kind of go through the motions, right? Like, it loses the meaning and loses, like, the message.
That's just saying the same thing, though. Like, this is what I mean, what we're doing. What's the answer to that? That could be what it is. That's what we do all the time. It could be this. What is it, and what are we going to do? Because I think that's like helping people, which again, and then I guess I get frustrated sometimes because, I don't know. I think sometimes we pander to the people that we shouldn't instead of just trying to do what God called us to do when we did this. Real Talk actually came out of a sermon series where I used to let people answer questions in the moment that they wondered about life, God, the Bible, and everything in between.
Really cool idea.
And it was fruitful, man. And like if I went back and read to you the old questions, it's pretty crazy. 2,000 questions, and it was really real and honest and stuff. And some of that I know is when things are new.
Yeah.
But like, what do we do now? Is that the focus? Is the focus us? I think we fell into this spot, which isn't bad. Like at first it was kind of like, okay, we're going to talk about these questions, but we also want to share our lives so you guys can see how we live this Christian life. But to me, and then I don't know if it's you guys feel this way at all, genuinely, but to me sometimes it's like now we just like throw out all our junk in our lives, but we don't actually process anything through it. And then it's like, okay, so why did we share that? Just so that we can be like, here's all of my personal information.
Right.
The
and then
world.
you know what, man? It's actually really convicting because I see what you're saying.
And I'm not saying I do it too. So, I don't know.
Because it kind of goes into like the idea of like this is one of my flaws, and I think this is kind of something else that I can think about that applies to my life is even in the midst of like sharing stuff, but also even like running into like problems in life, like how we can talk about it all we want, which is good because you want to have people help you carry your burdens, but I don't think you're fully carrying your burdens with people, like letting them carry it if there's no like solution, like you said, like
You're
no
not carrying.
processing
No,
through
you're
it.
not carrying anything.
Exactly.
Carry each other, like you're putting it on them and then walking away.
It's like kind of like putting chains on people.
No, I'm not trying to even this conversation is getting weird because I still feel like we're trying to put a show on. I'm just trying to say that I think what we share is good for people, and I think it's cool. And we do that for you guys because, at least originally, we want to share with you that you're not alone in the things that you're dealing with. Maybe you relate to where AJ's at today, feeling like you're not honest with yourself or with people, and that it affects your relationships and it affects all those things. Instead, but we didn't finish that, man. It just ended up with this is a Kairos moment. I'm going to all the way, which I'm not picking on you because I didn't really speak into it either because I don't know why. That's just a habit. You say yours, I say mine. Clint says his, we move on. Versus and maybe you've already reached what your step is. But if you did, I don't think it was very clear.
Yeah, that's
beyond
fair.
maybe this was it. I'm going to start being honest with people. Which
Yes.
sounds like easy, but how are you going to do that in the moment when you've already struggled? Is it one of those things that now you see it is easier to do it? And then with Clint, and I don't blame you. It's cool. We do joke, but he shared it, and then we just stopped. And then it was and then you made a joke there's Clint's life, sunglasses, when actually he shared something real in front of it. And then we didn't even address that. We just were okay, cool, check off the box, let's move on. Which is what people do in life. How are you doing? You tell me, and I go, great, take care, and then you leave. And I don't think that's what life's supposed to be. I mean, at least in this faith, man. And now there's dead silence. So
that's so it's funny because I think I don't even see that a lot of the time, which is so it's kind of scary. Especially for a show, right? Because like you said, it's like we're just getting back into a show. Gosh, that's so...
I think it's scary in life. This just happens to be where it's showing itself right now. I don't know. We got to figure it out for you guys out there watching because, I apologize that we have just not really... I don't know what we are anymore. And we need to decide that. And we've asked people, and I think the lack of input on that, people have given some means it's kind of, if we're going to sit here and say God's real, then we need to go to him and do two things. One, should we continue to do this? And two, if we do, what is this? Because that is the truth. And be real with ourselves about what's not happening. So that's just where I'm at, because I don't want to. And that, again, I want to be. I was like about to be defensive to the person out there that's like, Todd is mean to AJ and Clint. It's like, no, man. Like, I'm trying to be honest because I do the same things.
I think
So I guess I did. I guess I do have stuff in me. I just didn't want to talk about it because when I think about it, I'm like, why am I slightly angry? And then it makes me think of Christian culture. And then I was like, you know what we're doing? We're just becoming Christian culture show. Here, I'll pretend to process something, but not. And then some guy gets on here and says, good job, Clint, when he really doesn't necessarily interact with anything he said. He's just trying to
check the list.
Yeah, man.
Not really doing much at all. Like I see what you're saying, because like I feel like there's either, I don't know, this, you're right, it is Christian culture. Like if we break it down, it really is. We've allowed ourselves to, this is normal.
Mm-hmm.
And once we've accepted normality, we don't have any, it goes deeper than just, this is a show, because we're not wanting, you're right, we're not wanting to process, we're not wanting to talk to each other really, because either past hurts are now taking over, insecurities, things like that. Things are starting to take over and starting to be at the forefront, rather than wanting for us to be like, you know what, forget about it. Let's go hard. Let's go 900 miles per hour right off the bat, because we need to be real about what we're going through, because that's the only real reason people grow. And that's what we did at the beginning of the show. And now we're to this weird point where it's almost like we're hiding in plain sight.
Yeah. I like that.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, actually. I was going to actually add to that because I agree with you. I think you're 100% right. I think you said something, like I was thinking just for us. It's very clear, like guys listening, like what he said, we're having issues between us as guys.
Yeah.
But we're pretending we're not for the camera. And people are not dumb. And they can sense that, right?
Which is interesting, yeah.
No. Typically, if you run a professional show where you make money, we don't make a dime off this show, PS, because ain't none of you guys donate, like two of you. Let's just be real.
Right.
The Christians that do watch, you don't donate because it's not your church, so how dare you? But if we had 1 million views, you would, because then we're cool. Mm-hmm. That being said, now I made someone mad. But like for us though, it's awkward, man. Like if I was watching the show, I'd be like, dude, what is their deal? Like, why are they? So what AJ said, if we're honest, what he's doing is affecting his relationships with us.
Yes.
What I'm doing by having this like frustration, that I'm not taking to God really about like culture and even some people in my personal life and hurts that I've been, that I haven't admitted still hurt me from my past with churches and church and culture. It leaks out at times, and I let my frustrations leak out. And because why? Because I don't do what God says. It's not about showing it on the show, because the truth is if we did it off camera, what God tells us to do, then it wouldn't happen on camera. So if you and I have an issue, instead of justifying why it hasn't been dealt with, we just sort of subtly reference it on the show, No, I think it'd be ridiculous to deal with it on the show. But this is just a good example, even for people out there, like, if you have an issue at work and you never deal with it and you think, oh, well, and you have that weird tension now, or at church or in your ministry or in your marriage or with your kids. And it's like, man, if we just do what God told us to do, that wouldn't happen. What do you mean, Todd? Well, God says, if your brother or sister sins against you, go to them and tell them. If you repent, you've won your brother. If you believe your brother or sister has something against you, you go and make it right. And this includes wife, daughter, son, anything else. If you forgive, if you offer grace, if you're patient, if you're kind, if you bear each other's burdens, if you endure all things, believe all things, as he talks about in 1 Corinthians 13, he talks about love. That's what's really going on. And it's weird, man. Yeah, I just sometimes think like, we've championed so long real talk, right? The idea of like, it's okay to have that.
Right.
Especially if the reason you're sharing it is to A, carry a burden, B, have shame pulled off you, C, overcome an issue. That's awesome. But if not, what is it?
Show.
If I just
Yeah,
vent,
it's just talk. Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm not even being mean because that's somebody out there's gonna be like, see, we should never share. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, I don't know. This is a weird show, and so I'm going to defend this a little bit. So, for instance, I have some frustrations with certain people, and if I was being fully transparent without the camera on, I would tell you guys why and who and kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Or at least if I didn't say their name, the type of person. But when I get in the show, I don't. I halfway do it, and then people can tell I'm frustrated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same for you. Like you have these things, and you're trying, which makes sense that you're not going to tell guys. We're not going to tell you names, and who knows? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
I don't even know if this is making sense. But
I think
but
it's
to
making
me,
sense to me.
sometimes I look back at at us, and I'm like, what are we doing right now? Like again, I'm going to be real since you guys want to know. AJ, you look like you hate this show all the time to me, but I can't say that because then Bob out there, who literally, by the way, is not even an actual fan of the show.
Yeah, and doesn't-
It's just a guy who watches it periodically to suck up to you because he would like you to join him in life because you're young and cool, right? Maybe, or maybe your mom, or I don't know, someone like that.
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
And so they kind of defend it, which only in turn, which is also, isn't that so true in life? So if I come into your life and I'm trying to really help you, maybe I'm your friend and your brother. We've had this to each other, all of us. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to push into this. And they don't know our background. They don't know our past. They don't know
they
that
don't know
behind the
relationship.
scenes we've been fighting together against this thing for a long time. And they just come up and go, it reminds me, how dare you be that way to me? It's okay, AJ. It reminds me of Clint now. You remember that basketball a few months ago where Clint was like, hey, man, I'm trying to, I want to get better at this. Let me know if something's going on. And I would tell you, and then the guy on your team who doesn't know you or know me is like, quit being mean to Clint.
Right.
Which only fed you in that moment, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then later you'd be like, yeah, dude, it kind of made me mad that guy did that because the emotion in the moment is I didn't want to hear what you had to say, Todd, but I would have heard it. But then when that guy came in and did it, it kind of hit my flesh of like, yeah, he is being that way. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
And we do it to each other.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's a whole different point. But you look like you hate this show. I look like I'm angry at the world. Clint looks like he's given up hope. Right? Like, what are we doing?
And I think, dude, I think it breaks down at the end of the day very simply. We're hiding, and then you're right. I feel like we're on like this weird TV script. You say this, just like what you just said, but you can't say this, which is why Christian culture is at where it's at today. And of course, yeah, we can't say names, we can't say things like that. But I think even at the end of the day, when we're sharing our lives and things like that, you're right. We're not sharing everything. We're only sharing a part, and that's part of our trust issue. That's part of all of our things. Like I know, I can speak for myself. A lot of my stuff is because of trust issues and things like that. And I don't know. Sometimes I break it down in my head at the end of the day. It's like we've been fighting together for so long. It's like the enemy finally slipped behind our ranks just long enough to stab us all, three of us in the back, and then have us point at each other. And now we're all all on guard, but not really talking to each other. And it's this weird moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
don't know if that makes
no,
sense.
No, I think that's good. It's funny. I am not changing the subject. You say something that makes me think more. But it made me go, let's be real. If you don't have joy, it's not my fault. If I don't have joy, it's not your fault. The Bible says joy is a fruit of the Spirit, meaning it naturally happens when we're healthy. What does that say about the three of us?
Not healthy.
Not healthy.
I don't know. I don't know that. I know that I'm probably not everywhere I need to be. And what ends up happening, kind of like you said, defense, like if I'm really real on Real Talk, I'm just, and I, see, I'm already prefacing. I love the church with a capital C. I love it. I do. Passionate about it. I know I'm a part of it. I don't think there's any perfect church in the sense of, because there's no perfect people.
No.
And that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is we're not, but we're striving to be, that we forgive each other and we stay in community. And I just can't stand the diluted version, and that's D-I, although diluted also is kind of true. Diluted and diluted version of this stuff, man. And then, we end up kind of responding and letting those people set the culture, like we said, right? Instead of doing what we used to do and just be like, hey, whatever, this is what it is.
Yeah, man. It
Put on
stems
an
from.
armor and walking.
So like there's people that I've just allowed things to frustrate me to the point where I guess I kind of lose hope, and then I start acting in a way that I know isn't the way, with transparency and loving you enough to interact with things, and realizing that the world out there doesn't want another scripted show. They want, if they're Christians, they want to walk this out and know what it really looks like, and to know they're not alone in their failings and in their struggles and the things they're dealing with. And then if they're not Christians, but maybe they're seeking, right? You're a person of peace. And what that means is, you right now listening, you're not a Christian, but you're open to it. And you know there's something missing in life. You just want a place where you can come and hear people not give you the sterilized, version of this stuff that doesn't make sense. I talked to a guy, I told you a few weeks ago, I invited this guy, a neighbor, to church. And it's funny, man. He was all about being buddies with me until I did this. And he said, yeah, man, he goes, I'm not into Christianity. I just realized the deeper I got into it, the less sense it made. And it's funny because I said to him, I said, man, like, and I meant this genuinely. And I don't think he believed it, though, because he's used to people just bull crapping.
Right.
But I was like, it's funny, man, that's complete opposite of me. It's the more I got into it, the more I studied the words of Jesus, the more it made sense. It only doesn't make sense if you judge it based on sometimes the culture we've created, both within mainstream Christianity, but also within the world, right? Who they say he is versus who he is. Man. Because it's not a philosophy, and they try to make it that, and it's not, it's not a set of rules to, like, keep people from raping and murdering and pillaging each other. It's a real relationship with the living God. It is a transformation of a person from dead to alive, into a new person. So, I don't know. But it's hard. It is hard. And to encourage you both and us, and I'll shut up after this so we can get back, and then the guy that's listening, Bob, is going to say, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. There I am again. Sarcasm. Sorry, guys, genuinely. But I don't even know what I was saying, but I don't know. That's where I'm at. It's hard when it seems like the deck's stacked against you, and the people that only follow the diluted version of Christianity, including me at times, because I just confessed I did it. I'm doing it. It seems like they always win. They always get rewarded. Right? And then the world says, well, God must be with them. And then you start doubting yourself, right? Even though the Word of God, the Bible, says one thing, you start to look and see where the crowd's going. It's hard, man. It's hard not to see maybe that is the right way. Even though Jesus himself said, hey, narrow is the way that leads to life and few will find it.
But isn't that also the nice little lie that he likes to spin, the enemy? And he's operating with the traitor, because your traitor is already saying, man, I don't know.
Traitor's just what we call the flesh, guys. It's the old person of us. It's that, we have our lingo that we know what it means to each other. So it's kind of our nickname for that part of us that rebels against God. Go ahead. I just wanted
to... the traitor's already saying that part of you is just going, oh, maybe they aren't. Is this really worth it? And then the enemy just comes up and goes, is it worth it? Are you saved? Are you going down the right path? Are you really one of them? Do you really know Jesus? All those little questions. And they're just, and everybody out there, here's the truth. You've had those questions. Every single one of them has popped into your mind. And I don't care who you are. Doesn't matter if you are Mary Poppins and have the perfect house. Like, it doesn't matter. You've had those thoughts. When you lay down at night, you have those thoughts. Those little lies that come in and they shape your life. And I think one of the easiest things is to go, well, maybe I should go do that. And then you start to put up the walls. Because instinctively we know if we live in that culture, you're going to have to put up walls. Because if we were living in Jesus, following Jesus, we don't have needs for those walls. Because that's what it is to go to your brother every time you have a problem with them. That's what it is when you follow Matthew 18. That's what it is when you love each other like you're supposed to and don't focus on yourself and allow people to love you. That's what it is. You don't have a need for those walls because you're walking together as an army against the enemy. You're walking together as a group, as a body. I think more times than not, we don't want to act like a body, but we rather act like we are pieces separated, but in like a bag. We're like a chopped up body in a bag, trying to bite at each other and rip at each other. But that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to operate together, not by ourselves.
It's good, man. It's real good.
I was thinking of the rewards. And you're talking about how people who don't follow, God, they follow the example of the world, and even Christians, capital church with a capital C, we can tend to create these weird, false, like you said, like they're not actually following God. It's just all based on feelings in the world. And I think we're in moments when things are happening, we're so willing to just want a reward of any kind that we just settle for that moment.
Yeah, man, that makes sense.
So, and what I mean is, when I'm saying that you settle for a reward of any kind, you don't realize that God has so much more. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like, it reminds me of a song by this metal band. They're Christians from Indianapolis. Pretty cool. They're called Forevermore. I don't know if they're around anymore, but
good name.
Yeah, they're really awesome. And one of the choruses, one of their songs they came up with, I think they said like, we all sell this short for like this half-hearted formula or something like that, and it's so true, because you can see these people, like you said, who have created this culture that is not Jesus. It's just half truth. And you see that they're being rewarded for it, and you just want a reward of some kind. So you're willing to settle for that.
Powerful.
Because at least it's something. While,
man,
if you were to just hold on to the truth, have heart, and push through that and stay grounded in truth, you would realize that there's something so much bigger than that moment of that small little reward that isn't really a true reward. It's just a reward in the world's eyes. It's kind of like the idea of crowns. You're going to settle for a cupcake instead of a crown if you were to just keep staying grounded in those moments and realize that there's so much more. So that's kind of what it made me think of when you're talking about people and these rewards and how it can seem like they're the ones winning when they're not. They're not winning. But it's funny, man, because we can also be the ones not winning it, even if we're just sitting there going like, why are they winning and we're not? Like we have to stay grounded in the truth, man. And I don't do that. I don't. A lot of the time, I can feel hopeless and I can feel, alone. I can feel a lot of these things because I'm not willing to look at the truth and apply it. I'm not willing to go, hey, I believe this, but now let's live it. So it's funny, man. I think you're right. A lot of this show has become, I've said before, I'm so scared of just becoming a character, and I think that's kind of what's happened, man. I'm kind of a character who just comes on a show every week and talks about life, and sure, like what I shared earlier, like you said, like that's real, and like that's a real thing that happened in my life, even last night. But, if I'm not in a mindset of what am I going to do to stay grounded in the truth and move forward, then why talk about it, So that's really good, man. Like, I mean that. It's convicting to me because
I just think if I was watching this back in the day, we had a joy that might make people go, what's going on? I don't think that's the case anymore. And, I'm just tired of, ironically, on Real Talk, I'm tired of talking about it, man. I want to walk in that because that is the truth, And I don't know. I love you guys. I believe in you. Those are my thoughts. I wasn't even necessarily, and thank you guys for processing with me because I'm not even saying that I was right. Those are just things I think sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I had this thought of like, man, like you said, Clint, I think you mentioned it. I mean, it's just, you end up, and what you said so good, you just end up, maybe we were looking for, we were looking at the ministries or videos where the crowds were going and saying that's what we need to be.
Instead of just sticking to who we are.
Yeah.
the convicting thought that hit my mind, and remnant people listening, people out there in the world. Todd has a famous thing. It should be a quote by now. But seriously, take off your Christianese earmuffs. Take out the remnantese earplugs. Take it all out and listen for the first time, maybe in months, or listen. Maybe you've been listening this whole time, but hear this. Todd says this all the time. How real is it? If it's real, then what are we doing? And if it isn't real, like seriously, because I think it's everything that we've said. We've settled for something that isn't what we're supposed to. We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing probably. And we're not doing what he tells us to do. And if we're not doing that, then of course we don't have hope. Of course we're sad. Of course we have all these things. Because at the end of the day, we're getting lied to all the time, and we're not strong. We're not rejoicing in our battles because we don't realize how much of a blessing it is to even be in the battle.
Well, we don't view it as winning.
Exactly. We're living in that we're losing every time, not even realizing that we've already won.
Oh man!
If you're winning, if you won the game in a football, if I go into a football game and I know I've won the game, say I already know we're going to win the game, do I mope around during the game? No. I'm excited. Yeah, we have our down moments, but at the same time, I'm going, I won the freaking football game. Let's keep going.
That's good. That's a good analogy, man. I don't know. There's no urgency in myself. Like when I think about my faith, like if you believe this is real, man, like why? Like
why are you so miserable lately? That's the thing I've just kept coming, man. Like I'm just saying, like people that now I know some we've talked about, but I guess I'm saying it for other people that don't know you. I'm going to put it this way. If someone turns this show on, this is for all of us, today, and then turns one on from 3 months ago.
Big difference.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It goes for all of us, and you kind of said it. So, like, I guess, I don't know. I'm not calling you out because I didn't share anything either. It's more of, letting people know that that's been part of that, the difference in you. Like you said earlier, because you did start by saying, hey, I haven't been who I was. So how does that look to the people out there? What has it done for you, man? Not just like, hey, the guys around me have told me that I am not the same guy. What are you not feel the same about? Do you know what I mean? Inside. How has it affected you in your walk, in your relationships? That's just an example of the things that, like, you have I hate when I do that you have so much to offer, man, in your processing that a lot of people probably don't do.
I think what you said just really made me think a lot is, sorry, I feel like something's caught in my chest. So it sounds like my voice is like, and my voice.
The strangest show we've ever had.
My voice went from to so.
I get it, man. Trust me.
When I look back, and I can see a difference from the beginning, and probably even like you said, even just from a couple months ago or so. I think there's a lot of shame that has been inward. It's been held inside that it's leaked outward, and so then there's no hope, right? So even though I'm talking about, hey, there's hope, it doesn't look like there's hope because I'm just like, there's hope.
I got you.
So
because you're seeing it, you're not necessarily living it.
Exactly. I can.
Me too.
Exactly. So
because you do believe it.
Yes, I believe it. My whole heart. My life has literally changed. I can see that. I'm a completely different person. But when you hold on to shame and you just continuously carry that by yourself and you don't talk about it, and then that's not even on top of like these other feelings you didn't want to you didn't want to process through and even deal with, yes, that sucks the life out of you. It sucks the joy. It sucks the hope, because joy is not based in your feelings. So if you're living in your feelings all the time and you're letting it run you, of course there's going to be no joy because joy is above circumstance and feelings. Yeah. Joy is going to be outward. But if you're not, if you're not willing to set those things aside, you're not going to be outwardly joyful. Like people aren't going to be able to tell the difference. It's funny. It's funny that you said that because I noticed I was processing through something deep, but when you said that, I realized I was literally being such a mope about it. And I was like, frick. And that's probably the biggest difference I would see looking back at the beginning of the show compared to now, is even if I was dealing with something then, I was dealing with it with the hope that there would be more. There'd be something better. I could get over it. I could overcome that because of the Holy Spirit and Jesus. But now, because of all that shame I've carried for so long and not thinking that I'm worth anything anymore, there's no outward joy. There's no outward hope. So that's what needs to change. Like, it's like, why would people want to watch the show, or why would people want to be a Christian if we can sit here every week and talk about there being hope, and that there's, the message is that you're never too far gone, and that grace has no boundaries. But what are we putting out ourselves? Like, even by saying that, how do can people sense that there's hope in what we're saying? And for me, there hasn't been, which is so convicting.
Was it that say there is no hope?
No,
that you're not living in hope?
Yes, that I
what
myself.
What is hope?
Hope is looking at a situation, even if it's bad, and going, things can get better. It doesn't matter if I'm enough. It doesn't matter if I can't do anything, that maybe it's not even in my control. It's me going, hey, there's hope that that something good can come out of this. And I think you can live, and I think hope is hand in hand with joy, because if you're living in joy, then it doesn't matter what's happening. That's what's crazy, and I think that's what's hard for people to understand. Even me to this day, I can still struggle with it, because you're sitting here going, okay, I'm going to take all this crap that I have, and it doesn't matter if it's the heaviest weight in the world on myself. I can choose to hand it to God and go, you know what? I don't want to. I can't handle this by myself. And if you're willing to choose joy in those moments, like, you're already overcoming it in a way. But people don't want to look at it that way. We either want like an instant solution to what is happening, but we're not willing to put in the work to see any sort of progress, or we just accept that it's never going to get better, and that's why there's no joy. We're not willing to see that, hey, there is hope. I think hope has become just like a weird, and especially in the Christian culture, and even myself, like, hope is just this thing that we say but we don't believe in. Because I can tell. It's funny. I don't know why. It flipped a switch in me of like, what the heck am I doing? Like, I can't sit here and talk about hope and then not outwardly show, hey, there's hope. Like, people are going to tell, like, why do you think we're called the salt of the earth, man? People can tell a difference in you, even if it's people who don't even know you very well, because that's the light. You're shining a light on the world that is full of darkness. That's based on how you outwardly show your faith. And if you are outwardly showing your faith, okay, and if you're outwardly showing your faith, then. Sorry, I lost my thought.
It's my fault. I told you.
No, it's okay. If you're outwardly showing your faith, man, like, it's gonna speak to you, but also others. Like, I don't know. It just clicked in me. Like, I've been such a mope about being hopeful. That's so weird.
Yeah. So those that are listening to the podcast or the video, our buddy Norman, who goes to our church, just came in, and I actually am meeting with him after this, and I told him to come up. He has no clue either what's going on. I literally would say, no, I don't. So Norman, you can either come over here, you can stay right there. It's up to you whether you want to be on the show. But
he's like, I'm in. Well, I want to be
on.
Well,
I meant you're going to be on it regardless. What we're talking about, this is all my junk. I'm terribly ill, as you know. Hi, this is Norman. You're going to have to squat down, buddy. So I was thinking about this. Norman, let me ask you a question. This is completely unplanned. This is a train wreck episode anyway, so we're just going to roll with it.
This is awesome.
Norman's one of the few people, you watch the show, right?
Yep.
Pretty regularly.
Yep.
And you go to our church. And you can come in close here so we can share. I probably won't get you sick. But, so we're kind of talking about when you see the show later, you're going to see that it's been a train wreck. But also, we're just trying to be real about the show. So I'm going to ask you a question, completely unscripted. Unfiltered. I don't know what he's going to say.
Yep.
There's no response. I'm not looking for a response. I just want to know the truth. So you've watched it from the beginning. You've been on the show.
Correct.
Right? 2 questions. 1, have you noticed a change in the show, good or bad, in the last 6 months? I know, it's crazy. I'm putting it on him.
Yeah, I would say I noticed a change.
What is it?
So it definitely seems more focused, like in the conversations.
Still today. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I like that it goes direct. Like I like the topic when you guys bring in other topics as well, because I think that's kind of what's missing even in church nowadays is addressing the topics that are going on in the world. And then I guess also this is to the people who go to the room that don't listen. I've noticed that we are not as active in sharing that stuff. And I know that's one big thing that we talk about even is being different, being the change, setting culture. And I think that's one way that even here for us members at the Remnant to set culture, sharing those things that impact your life.
Yeah. So, do you think? Well, now you've made me think of 3 questions. Second question is why, beyond the fact, and be real, even if the reason is just you are my buddies, I love you. By the way, the Remnant, for those that don't go here listening from out of state, because there have been 30 different states, 11 different countries as of a couple months ago. So maybe you're one of those. Remnant is the church that sponsors this show.
Yep.
We're all a part of that church. Norman goes there. So he's talking to our church folk, kind of calling them out. That's cool. That's what we do. That being said, why do you watch the show week after week?
I feel it really does help me grow and learn more. Something AJ had said has to be over a year ago, constantly reminds me because he was telling me, because I can let people impact how I feel, whether good or bad. And then I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but it was about why do we let people have so much power over our life is because we'll believe them during the what they're saying negatively about us because they always speak to us positively. So when someone says something negative, we automatically just believe them because they speak so much positive in our life. And so that's kind of constantly thinking about that. Like, it's kind of funny. I was actually reading in my Bible today. It was in Hebrews talking about encouraging one another. And so I was like, for me, I'm like, I put in my own journal is how often am I truly encouraged? Because it says to encourage each other daily. And I'm like, am I really doing that? And like, encouragement to you might be something different than AJ, but am I encouraging someone daily? And not always am I.
Well, that's pretty ironic. Because you have no idea what we just talked about. So it convicted me. Yeah.
Yeah, my mind's kind of blown.
So, for instance, for me, you already know this about me. I can let the people who, just real talk. I shouldn't have to preface this, but I'm going to. I'm not perfect. I don't think I am. I don't think I have all the answers. I don't think I've arrived. This is what I do know. Loving people, forgiving people, giving grace to people, and speaking truth to people. If you do those 4 things, really, that's just tangibly. God said if you just do 2, which is love God and love other people as yourself, you're doing pretty good. But when you do those 4 things as a believer, to me, that's I'm doing it right to a degree.
It says to do that and you fulfill the law of Christ.
Yeah. The issue is when I see other people, and we talked about this, and I let people affect me, man. I let the crowd affect me a lot more than Jesus did, and I need to be better at that. And it gets me down, and it robs me of my joy. Sounds like you're being robbed of hope for the same, but kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy that you said that. So,
yeah, it
that's
definitely
true,
fits.
man. That's so good. So I guess the other question I was originally going to ask is, we'll believe you. Do you think that we seem like we enjoy doing this show when you're watching it?
I think there's some episodes and some episodes that you seem like it is kind of going through it, and it kind of even at that it talks about we're supposed to do the hard things. So even if you're having those moments where in here it might seem like it's hard, I think because I know both of you more than AJ, you wear your emotions on your sleeve,
so it's not good,
and so it's easy
to see
that. But also that's also I think what's missing in the church is you don't really have pastors who their congregation, there's people close to them that know what they're going through. And so it's kind of something that, we've talked about a lot. Like, what are we doing as members to help our pastor carry each other's burdens? Like, carry his burdens. Because he's helping us carry our burdens. But, like, what are we doing to help him? Like, you have burdens, so what are we doing to help you?
I have some. Yeah. Well, that's good, man. And those are out there like, what has this show become? Well, this is what it is. And I think it's kind of cool that you showed up because I think those that have watched from the beginning, even if they're going, man, this is wild, God, this stuff is real. This guy comes in and says something that directly relates to...
Oh, it's relevant.
Well,
Big time.
Yeah, it's Holy Spirit. You're going to see it later.
Oh, yeah.
Even Fun Term was going, no, this is crazy.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. I guess... Again, what can I say about this show to people? First off, I'm sorry that we have not been being real with you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, too.
And secondly is this stuff is real, and it's okay to wrestle with things, and it's okay to not say the right thing all the time, and it's okay to have to, I don't know, have days that are hard, and it's okay to ask questions. And if you're out there and you're not a Christian even, it's okay. God doesn't, you've probably been told at times that people have snapped at you for asking questions about God and the Bible, and they shouldn't, because you can ask them. Jesus said, if you seek me with all your heart, you'll find me. That's what God said. And part of that is doing that. Love is asking questions. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And we shouldn't be afraid, because the truth is, if our faith is so tenuous that it can't handle hard questions, then what is it? Is it real?
All right, is it real faith?
And I think God, it will answer. And I want to get back to that. I want to get back to, it's really good to know Norman as far as answering, like we did have a bunch of topics today, which we did not get to. Mm-hmm. So I know Fun Turn put together some. I know you had a couple. So we're excited to do that. It's good to know. But also, we want to invite you guys into this. Help us make this what it should be. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. Even if it's about us, ask the questions about God, about life, about all of it. Because I know you have them. I know you do. Because we have 2,000 questions. 2,000. And some of those ones at the beginning, man, probably the first 1,200. I hope we didn't create an environment where we focused, so much either way, either on being ridiculous that we didn't answer those questions, or two, that we, maybe our mopiness and my frustration it showed makes it look like we don't want to answer those questions. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think, because also you guys were, there's COVID. We were doing this, COVID hit us. And then, so, yes, people were at home during COVID, and they could have watched it, but COVID just another excuse in a way to not.
Changed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah, you're right. About the church even. And that's a really good point, Norman, that I never thought about, is maybe what we're sensing too is...
If I just didn't get you guys flagged.
I think that, man, that's a great topic. I almost want to end there and pick up on this topic because maybe that's something to talk about. Maybe CVID has affected Christianity and the church and everything associated with it way more than we're willing to admit. I'm serious. We know statistically, for the first time in 80 years, I've said this, that church attendance is, 40 or under 50?
Under 50.
Under 50% in America, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay. We know that a ton of people haven't went back. Our church, I'm very thankful to special people. We're open, people are coming,
Yeah.
But what does that do to you as a Christian? What does that do, even what you said? This is interesting. So even though, let's say in our town, or our church, people are coming, but how has all of this insanity, the stress, the feeling in our society, our government, right?
Fear.
It's chaos, the fear, we know.
Yeah.
Yep.
How is it affecting us in ways that, we're all kind of accepting, this is life. Like that dog that's burning in the house is burning in that cartoon with the dog, and he says, no, this is fine.
This is fine.
That's kind of what we're doing, right? And maybe it's affecting, maybe we're not being real about what it's doing to us. Talking about the fears and all those things, because that's such a great point, man. Maybe that's even for us.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not being real about the effect that this craziness is having on us. Because CVID is not just about the sickness, right? We're using that to symbolize what's happening in our government, what's happening in the world, what's happening to our rights, what's happening to our culture, what's happening to society. We're being polarized. You're either here or here, right? You're only you're this or you're that.
Yep.
And CVID medication that comes when someone stabs you with something. I'm trying to avoid being censored here. That is just the symbol. That's the dividing line, but it's way more than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it
goes deeper.
Dude,
Right when I really want to roll into this show is when we're going to have to end. 'Cause this is good. Maybe this will be part 1. Train wreck part 1.
I'm in.
We'll
I
pick
love
up
it.
train wreck part 2 later. Go ahead.
I'm in.
So, like, I've said it before, and like, COVID. Sorry, there I go again. The current sickness that's going around.
We're done.
Yeah, it's
CVID,
okay.
That's what I call it.
It's dividing people. Like, okay,
In a lot of ways, though, isn't it?
if you don't do this, if you don't get this current thing that we're pushing you to take, that you can go to one of the local places and get, if you don't do that, you don't love me. Like, we've already started putting that weights on people.
Yep.
Like, and that's not true. Like, just because, there's that whole thing, it's always been my body, my choice. And now it's your body, my choice. It's kind of like it's flipped.
Well, except in certain situations, right?
Yep. Exactly.
dude,
That's, you know what I mean? But let's just be real. Abortion, okay? This concept, even that, right? I mean, what a weird thing that we're living in this society where it says what you just said. That flip has happened, but not here. And now you have half of. Excuse me. I've told this story. Make it brief. This is great. Now the show's really picking up. Thanks, Norman, for just busting the rest of the wall down that we've already put a hole in. But let's be real about this. So I even have a buddy that claims to be a Christian. One of my best friends. You guys know this. And what he said, we'll get you a chair for part 2. What he has said about just that topic alone, and how I guess what I'm trying to say is like Christians on both sides of the aisle are saying that Christ is for their side, which makes it even more confusing.
Yeah. Where's it?
So maybe we need to quit messing around. And if Facebook doesn't want to let us talk about this, then we push everybody to Rumble.
That's true, man.
Or we push everybody to, like, we can find a platform to where we can talk about this stuff, because you guys deserve an answer biblically on some of this. And let me tell you something. Some of the stuff that's going on right now, the Bible is silent on directly. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't have a direction for us. So that's the question. I think that's where we're going to close up today, because things got crazy. This did not go anywhere I expected, but I love it.
It's beautiful.
And at least in a weird way, we kind of got real again.
Yeah.
Norman's sitting down here like a dog at the table. Thank you, Norman, for coming in and for letting me cut into our meeting time.
No problem.
So we're going to come back with you guys with part 2 of this episode and podcast.
Yes.
You will see part 1 and then part 2. I've got some crazy ideas I'm going to throw out. Part 2 will come out within the next 48 hours as well. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
All right.
It's not that hard. We do this all the time.
I love it.
But also with that, I'm just going to say right now, by the time you see it, we may have already done it. We're going to go live and answer a few of the questions that we didn't get to because this turned into something else.
All right.
It'll just be a live, literally probably us with a phone answering your questions, because I want to get to some of those. Norman, we'll bring Norman back for part 2. Maybe we'll invite some other people in. Let's just have a discussion. Let's get real. Other than that, we love you guys. Love you, Norman. Thank you.
No problem.
You got anything you want to say, man? Close up shop here?
Love you guys.
Got anything?
check out the podcast. And we'll be back.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say the spiel. We're coming back with part 2. You're going to want to join us because this might be the one that gets us fully censored. So,
Get fed,
we'll
folks.
see you sometime within the next 24 to 48 hours with part 2.
Boom.
Other than that, you know where the link is, www.theremnant.life/real-talk. Shoot us those questions. Let's get real again. Let's wrestle with God, life, the Bible. Let's figure this stuff out, and let's quit pretending that we have to be quiet on certain subjects, because I'm sick and tired of pretending that.
Nice.
So there's that. If you want to donate to the show, which 99% of you don't, because frankly, you don't want to give money to things that are good. But if you do, www.theremnant.life/give, you know who you are. Let's just be real. Or you watch the show, and P.S., this is not to all of you, but some of you know, I think I'm thinking local again. You know, how you can't donate to us because we aren't a ministry of your church. People are still getting reached. So other than that, I love you guys. We'll see you soon. Have a great day. God bless you.